On your review sheet for Chapter 5, the Chapter 5 test, I'm going to work through on this video problems 2 through 7. So as you can see, here's number 2. And what we're told is we have a point on a parabola, the point -1, 6. And we're also told that the vertex is the point 0, 1. Well, since we're told that this is a parabola, and we're given the vertex, then that makes it nice to be able to use vertex form. And I want to show you vertex form again here in general. And then I'm going to show you how we can take the given point and the vertex, plug those values in, and that will enable us to come up with this equation for the parabola. And then we'll indicate whether it opens up or down. All right? So remember, in vertex form, H and K stand for the vertex. So let's just go ahead and label this ordered pair as H is 0 and K is 1. And then over here, this other ordered pair just takes on the typical X, Y coordinates. And so let's take these 4 numbers and plug them into the variables that they represent. So Y is 6. Notice I don't have anything to plug in for A, so I'm going to be solving for A. X is -1. H is 0 squared. And K is +1. So let's follow the order of operations correctly, and we'll see if we can solve for A. All right, so remember, do parentheses first. In the parentheses, this would be -1. And when you square -1, you get +1. Okay, multiplying A times 1, of course, is just A. We always multiply first, and then we would add. So I'm trying to solve for A, which means I'm going to have to subtract 1 from both sides. And when I do, I get my value for A. Okay, so now I'm going to write my equation for the parabola, and I'm just going to write it in vertex form. So here's what it looks like. Y equals, I now have a number that I can put in for A. It's 5 times the quantity X minus H is 0 squared plus K, which is 1. And this isn't terrible, but I hope you recognize that X minus 0 is just X. So really, this would be a better way of writing that equation. Y equals 5x squared plus 1. So that is the answer for number 2 on your Chapter 5 review sheet. All right, let's run through these answers, and this will conclude this video. Simplifying these expressions, these complex numbers that are being either subtracted, added, multiplied, and then we have radicals that need to be simplified. So just be careful. Some of the things I notice on tests like this is on problems like number 3, I end up seeing people that use multiplication here. They use FOIL. Well, the only time we use FOIL is if we're multiplying either binomials or, in this case, 2 complex numbers. So remember, this is subtraction. So subtract the real number parts. The real number part of a complex number is the first number. So 3 minus 7 is -4. And now subtract the I part, the imaginary part, and I minus 6i, remember you're subtracting both of these, I minus 6i is -5i. And that's your answer. Should be able to save some time on your test with these if you just be careful and make sure that you subtract both of these, both the real number part and the complex, the I part. Okay, this is similar, except it's addition. So we're again going to add this time the real number part. Negative 4 plus 5 is 1. And now do the same thing with the complex number part, the imaginary number part. Negative 9i minus 7i is negative 16i. And that is my answer for number 4. Okay, and number 5, notice we do have multiplication. So this is where we're really just going to apply the FOIL method. So first multiply together, 3 times 5 is 15. Then the outside terms multiply together, 3 times 2i is 6i. Inside, these two multiplied together would be negative 20i. And then these last terms multiplied together would give you negative 8i squared. Remember, I times I is I squared. Well, combining like terms, I've got these I terms here that I can put together. 6 minus 20i is negative 14i. And right here is such a common mistake. People sometimes, or very often, forget that I squared is equal to negative 1. So that means if I'm simplifying and I end up with I squared in my expression, I've got to replace it with negative 1. Okay, so do not leave an answer when you're simplifying an expression. Do not leave an answer that contains I squared. You need to replace it and then continue simplifying. All right, so I'll just squeeze it in here and give you something to look at. Notice how I'm replacing I squared with negative 1, and then we'll just finish this thought over here. If I do negative 8 times negative 1, that's positive or plus 8. Okay, and now let's put the real number parts together. 15 plus 8 is 23 minus 14i. So another word of caution, just remember that these complex numbers must be written in the form a plus b I. The real number part always goes first, followed by the imaginary part. You will lose points if you turn these around. Okay, so just remember that. So that's your answer for number 5. Number 6, I need to simplify the square root of negative 25 first, and that could be written as 5i. Okay, so I just took this original problem and rewrote the square root of negative 25 as 5i. Now I can multiply. I can multiply 3 times 5i and get 15i. And when I combine that with the real number part, plus the positive 4, the complex number looks like this: 4 plus 15i. Okay, so that's your answer for number 6. On number 7, I gave you a note. I didn't include that note on here, but I gave you a note on your review sheet to make sure you simplify these radicals first. Don't just jump in and use FOIL with these radicals, because you technically cannot multiply these radicals since they're not real numbers. So let's change them into the number I form. So the square root of negative 9, of course, is 3i minus 2. And the square root of negative 4 is 2i plus 1. Okay, and that's kind of low down on the screen there. So let me just go to another screen. So we got 3i minus 2 and 2i plus 1. So that's an important step when you see this on your test. Change these radicals into their I form. Then you're ready to use the FOIL method. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. 3i times 2i is 6i squared. 3i times 1 is 3i. Negative 2 times 2i is negative 4i. And then negative 2 times 1, negative 2. Remember, I squared is negative 1. So if we treat this as negative 1, multiply times 6, that becomes negative 6. When you combine these I terms, 3 minus 4 is negative I. And of course, now you could have combined negative 6 and negative 2 before, but I'll go ahead and do it now. The negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8 minus I. So again, make sure your answer is in complex number form. Real number followed by imaginary number. All right, those are your answers for this little video covering problems 2 through 7 on your Chapter 5 test review.